The Midnight Noise Jack was not an ordinary man. He lived alone on the edge of a small farming colony on Earth's outer rim, far from big cities, far from noise. He liked peace, crops, and the sound of the wind through the trees, but for the past 3 nights something had changed. His vegetables were disappearing. Every morning he found half-eaten carrots, broken tomato plants, and deep claw marks in the dirt. Jack didn't believe in ghosts, but this felt strange. No animal on his farm ever left marks like that, and no human would be foolish enough to steal from Jack Thomas. He had cameras, but they were old and mostly didn't work. He had weapons too, mostly for wild animals, not for real trouble. On the 4th night, Jack didn't sleep. He made black coffee, loaded his old rifle, and sat near his crops hidden behind his barn. The moon was full, the wind was quiet. Even the insects were silent tonight. At first nothing happened. An hour passed. 2 hours. Then, just before midnight, Jack heard something. A soft sound, like footsteps, but lighter, careful, almost afraid. He held his breath. His eyes scanned the rows of corn, the tomato bushes, the pumpkin vines. Then he saw movement. A shadow, small, thin, fast, slipped between the plants. It moved with purpose, not like an animal, not like a child. Jack narrowed his eyes and raised the rifle, not to shoot, just to aim. The figure crouched beside a bush. Hands reached out, pulled vegetables into a small sack. Quick, desperate, Jack stepped forward. "Stop right there," he said firmly. The figure froze. He walked slowly, rifle still aimed, until he was just a few steps away. Then, in the moonlight, he saw her. It was a female alien. Short, thin, her skin pale blue, almost glowing. Her clothes were torn, her hands dirty. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept in days. She was holding a sack full of stolen vegetables. For a moment she just stood there, breathing hard like a trapped animal. Then she did something Jack didn't expect. She dropped the sack, fell to her knees, and put her hands in front of her, palms open. "Please," she said in a soft, broken voice. "Don't hurt me." Jack blinked. This wasn't an attacker. This wasn't a thief looking to sell crops for money. This was something else. "Who are you?" he asked, still holding the gun. "What are you doing on my land?" The alien looked up. Her eyes were large and glassy, filled with fear and something else. Sadness. "My name is Solari," she said slowly. "I did not want to steal, but I have no choice." Jack lowered the gun slightly. "No choice? You broke into my land?" She nodded. "Yes, because my children are hungry. We crash. No food, no help, only forest, only your farm." Jack stared at her. "You're telling me you're a mother and you're stealing food? For your kids?" She looked down. "Yes, 3 children, small, sick, they cry all night. No food in 2 days. I search. I find your crops. I take only little." For a long moment, Jack said nothing. He had seen many things in his life. Raiders, smugglers, pirates. But he had never seen an alien mother crying on her knees in his field, begging for food. Something in his chest tightened. He stepped closer. She didn't move. "Stand up," he said finally. Solari looked scared but obeyed. "Where are your kids?" he asked. She hesitated. "Not far, in forest, hiding." "Take me to them," Jack said. Solari's eyes widened. "Why?" "Because if you're lying," he said, "I'm calling the security patrol. And if you're not, then maybe I can help." Solari stared at him for a second, then nodded slowly. "Follow me," she whispered. And without another word, she turned and began walking toward the dark trees at the edge of the farm. Jack followed, rifle in hand, not sure what he would find. But something deep inside told him this was not just a thief. This was something bigger, something human. The thief revealed. Jack followed the alien woman into the woods. The moonlight disappeared behind the tall trees, and darkness wrapped around him like a cold blanket. He walked slowly, every step careful. His boots crunched the leaves underfoot. Ahead of him, the alien moved like a shadow, silent, fast, and strangely graceful. Jack wasn't sure why he trusted her. Maybe it was her eyes, or the way she dropped to her knees, or the word children. Jack had seen lies before, too many. But this didn't feel like one. He gripped his old rifle tightly just in case. Not to shoot her, but to stay ready. The forest was dangerous, and not just because of animals. Smugglers, exiled mercs, or worse. There were many things hiding. In the wilds outside the colony. After about 15 minutes of walking, Solari stopped. They had reached a deep part of the woods. Trees were twisted here, their branches like black fingers. Moss covered the ground. There was no sound, no wind, no animals, not even insects. Solari crouched beside a bush and brushed away some leaves. Underneath was a hole, barely wide enough for a person to crawl through. A hidden shelter? This is where they are? Jack asked. Solari nodded. Yes, they wait here. They are scared of humans. Very scared. She looked at him again, her eyes pleading. Please, no loud voice, no guns. Jack nodded. Lead the way. She dropped to her hands and knees and crawled inside. Jack hesitated for a moment, then followed her. The tunnel was narrow and damp. It smelled like earth and mold. After a few meters, it opened into a small underground chamber, probably part of an old storm shelter, long abandoned and buried by time. Inside it was dim, but Jack could see enough. 3 small aliens huddled together in the corner. Children, they, looked like Solari, pale blue skin, big black eyes, but smaller, thinner. One was coughing weakly, another was shaking. Their clothes were torn blankets. A cracked water bottle lay near them, almost empty. Their faces were hollow, eyes sunken. Jack had seen starving humans before. These children were worse. Solari rushed to them and pulled them into her arms. They clung to her like vines to a tree. Mama, one of them whispered, voice barely a breath. Jack felt something tighten in his chest. These were not invaders, not spies, not criminals. They were just surviving. Solari looked up at him. This is why I steal. I do not want to. But they are dying. Jack knelt down. How long have you been here? 12 days, she said. Our ship broke in sky. We crash. I wake alone. My husband, he is gone. Maybe dead, maybe taken. I do not know. I find my children under metal. They were hurt, but they live. I hide them. I fix wounds with what I know. Jack looked around. There was no light source, no heater, no proper food, just dirt, fear and pain. You tried to call for help? He asked. Yes, she said, but no answer. Our signal is weak. And your humans, she paused. They fear us. They shoot first. Jack knew she wasn't wrong. Many humans on the frontier didn't trust aliens. Not after the wars. Not after the betrayals. Even peaceful species were watched with suspicion. He stood up slowly. Why didn't you come to the colony? Solari shook her head. They would take my children, put us in cage, maybe worse. I have seen. I have heard. Jack looked down at the 3 young ones. One of them stared back, curious but not afraid. Do they have names? Jack asked softly. Solari smiled for the first time. Yes. The oldest is Kira, the small one is Jen, and the middle is Doro. Kira, the one who coughed, looked the weakest. Her skin was nearly white. Her hands shook even as she held her mother's arm. Jack took a deep breath. You can't stay here, he said. Solari's smile vanished. Then, you will call them? The soldiers? Jack shook his head. No, but if your kids are this sick, they won't survive another night here. What will you do? She asked carefully. Jack looked her straight in the eyes. I'll take you to my barn, hide you there, give you food, medicine, blankets. I have a solar heater. Solari's eyes widened. You would do this? Didn't fight in the colony wars to let children die in the dirt, Jack said. You're not my enemy, but your people. My people don't speak for me, he said. But listen, if anyone finds you, I might not be able to protect you. Solari nodded. I understand. Jack leaned down and reached for Doro, the middle child. Can they walk? He asked. Solari gently woke the children. Yes. Slow, but they can. Good, Jack said. Then we move now, before sunrise. As they crawled out of the hole, Jack felt the air shift. Something unseen was watching them. The trees felt thicker, the wind colder, and in the distance, a quiet buzz. Drones. Jack turned his head sharply. Move fast, he whispered. We're not alone. Her story, the forest, was still, but Jack felt the air grow heavier as they moved. He carried Doro, the middle child, while Solari led Kira and Jen by hand. The children were weak, but silent. Maybe too used to hiding. Maybe too afraid to cry. Jack didn't speak much. He listened. Behind them, the soft mechanical hum of drones buzzed faintly in the wind. They were far, for now. By the time they reached Jack's barn, the eastern sky was starting to turn gray. Dawn was close. Too close. Jack opened the hidden back door of the barn, the one behind the tall stacks of hay. He'd used it for smuggling during the border raids long ago. Now it would serve a new purpose. Inside, the barn smelled of soil, wood, and old oil. Jack had cleaned part of it recently, added blankets, water tanks, and solar lamps. He had not expected guests. Definitely not alien ones. He locked the doors, drew the curtains, and turned on the heater. The kids didn't talk. They curled into the blankets like leaves in the wind. Solari sat near them and whispered something soft in her language. A lullaby, maybe. Jack couldn't tell. He stood at a distance, rifle in hand, watching the door. Listening. After a while, he turned to her. Tell me everything, he said. No lies, no skipping. Solari looked tired, but she nodded. I was born on a moon called Viruna, she said. Not far from here by space. It is cold there, but peaceful. We are not fighters. We are healers. She paused. But the war changed everything. Jack nodded. He had fought in the last one, not proud of it, but necessary back then. Solari continued, her voice soft but steady. I married Ren. He was a pilot. He flew for our people's aid ship. Not war, only rescue. When the Alliance broke down, we were told to leave. They said Earth space was unsafe, but our ship was slow. You flew here alone? No. We were with 6 others, 3 adults, 6 children. We were heading to a neutral station near Jupiter, but our ship was attacked mid-flight, not by soldiers, by scavengers. Pirates. Jack felt his hands clench. What happened? They damaged our ship's systems. We crashed. Not far from here. Only 4 of us lived. My husband, me, my 3 children. But Ren left to find help. He never came back. Her voice cracked. Jack stayed quiet. He knew the weight of loss. I hid my children, she said. I made a shelter. I used my knowledge. Medicine, energy repair. But the food ended. And I had no choice but to find help. She looked at Jack now, her eyes burning. But not one human helped me. The 2 I showed myself to. They ran. They screamed. They tried to alert patrols. Jack sat on a crate across from her. I believe you, he said. But we need a real plan now. Solari tilted her head. You mean escape? Maybe, Jack said. But we don't even know if your husband's alive, or if others from the crash survived. Solari nodded slowly. I feared the same. Then Jen, the smallest child, spoke weakly. Papa sent signal before he go. Jack leaned forward. What signal? Solari's eyes lit up. Yes, Ren activated a beacon. It's low frequency. It sends every 12 hours. Shortwave, coded. I thought no one would find it. Jack stood. If we can find that beacon, I can boost its power. Maybe even find your husband. But Solari looked down. The beacon is at the crash site, and the crash site is watched. Jack frowned. Watched by who? She looked up. Not your military. Someone else. Masked. Black suits. No flags. They took something from our ship. Something important. Jack's voice lowered. What did they take? Solari hesitated. Data, she said. Maps. Bioscans. Not from my world. From others. Lost systems. Ruins. Ancient things. Knowledge. Why would they want that? Because knowledge is power, she said. And some humans want all of it. Jack stood up and started pacing. This wasn't just about saving a family anymore. This was bigger, deeper, something hidden. If that's true, he said slowly, then those black suits might be after you too. Solari nodded. I think they know I escaped. I think they are searching. Jack looked out the small window slit in the barn wall. The sun had risen, and in the distance a dust cloud moved toward the road. Vehicles. We don't have much time, he said. Solari stood. Then what do we do? Jack turned around, his voice firm now. We get to that crash site, find the beacon, boost the signal, and we get you and your kids off this planet. But they will be guarding it. Let them try to stop me, Jack said, his eyes burned now with purpose. I've buried enough bodies to know how to make new graves. Solari didn't flinch. Instead, she nodded. Then we move at night, Jack agreed. Tonight, when they least expect it. But deep inside, Jack knew something else. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was war. Again. The hidden nest, the night came slowly. For Jack, the hours before sunset felt longer than any day on the farm. He checked his gear twice, then a third. Time, flashlight, hand scanner, rifle, silent comms, food for Solari and her children, emergency med pack. He kept one eye on the road and the other on the sky. No patrols had passed again. No drones flew near the barn. It was too quiet, and Jack had lived long enough to know. When things were too quiet, something was wrong. Solari spent the day caring for the children. She mixed herbs with Jack's human medicine, checking their pulses, rubbing a glowing gel across Kira's chest. The girl still coughed, but her color had returned slightly. Doro and Jen ate half a protein bar each. They didn't smile, but they no longer looked like ghosts. As the sky turned orange, Jack pulled Solari aside. We go in 1 hour, he said. She nodded. Jack pointed to a map he had pulled from the colony archives. The crash site is here, 5 kilometers north. It's in the ravine near Red Hollow Ridge. Solari's eyes darkened. Yes, that's where we fell. What's the terrain like? Jack asked. Steep. Sharp rocks, metal pieces, broken trees. The ship burned on one side, and there's a nest under it. Jack blinked. A nest? Yes, she said slowly. We call them Kylan roosts, small insect species, not dangerous alone, but, when disturbed, they swarm. Jack frowned. Why didn't you mention this before? Because they sleep during cold nights, she said, and the beacon is close to their hive. Jack rubbed his chin. Great. So we're going into a dark, sharp ravine full of alien insects while some black suit mercs camp nearby? Solari tilted her head. You said, let them try to stop you. He gave a small smirk. I did say that. Then his smile faded. But if we're going in smart. 1 hour later, they moved through the trees. Solari walked beside him, holding a small handheld scanner from her ship. The beacon pinged once every 30 seconds, quiet, soft, like a heartbeat. The forest was darker here. The air felt heavy. The deeper they went, the more Jack saw signs of something unnatural. Burned branches, scorched ground, melted rocks. Wasn't just a crash, it was a violent one. They passed the skeleton of a tree bent in half like it had been struck by lightning. Part of a broken engine rested against it, half buried in the dirt. Jack crouched. "Is that your ship?" Solari nodded. "The outer hull." The beacon pinged again. Louder now. "We're close," she whispered. They climbed a steep hill covered in black vines. At the top, Jack saw it. The ravine. The ship lay like a metal beast fallen from the sky. Twisted, broken, smoke-stained. Large chunks were missing, pulled apart or melted. Crates were scattered around. And near the center, under part of the wreckage, he saw it. A nest. At first it looked like a pile of old roots. Then it moved. Hundreds of small creatures, glowing slightly, crawled across the twisted metal and into tiny holes in the ground. They shimmered like glass in the moonlight. "We can't go through them," Jack whispered. "Not without waking them." Solari scanned again. "The beacon is 10 meters down, inside that panel. But if we step too hard, they'll wake." Jack studied the area. "We can distract them." "How?" He pulled a small grenade from his belt. Sound burst. "Throw it far left. When they chase the noise, we run to the panel." Solari hesitated. "What if they come back too fast?" "Then I shoot them," Jack said, "and we run harder." He looked at her. "Are you ready?" She took a deep breath. "Yes." Jack pulled the pin, counted to 3, and threw the grenade as far left as he could. Boom. A loud blast echoed through the trees. Leaves flew, insects scattered. The entire nest hissed like boiling water as the Kylan insects rose and darted toward the sound. "Go!" Jack shouted. They sprinted down the slope, boots sliding on loose gravel. Jack reached the panel first. He dropped to his knees, pried it open, and pulled out a small cylindrical device, blinking red and blue. "Got it." But before they could turn, a light snapped on and a voice shouted from the trees above them. "Freeze, hands in the air." 4 figures stepped out, all in black armor, full masks, rifles aimed. Jack raised his weapon halfway, then stopped. They were too many, too close. Solari stood protectively in front of Jack. "Hands up." "You're trespassing," the lead man said. His voice was metallic, filtered. "Drop the beacon." Jack's eyes flicked to the trees. "What do you want with it?" he asked. "Classified." "Surrender now or we open fire." Jack looked at Solari, then at the beacon, then at the insects, still buzzing, still watching. "You want the beacon?" he said, voice cold. "Catch." And with one fast motion, Jack threw the beacon straight into the middle of the Kylan nest. The swarm exploded. Hundreds of glowing bugs rose into the air like a storm. The black suits opened fire, too late. Solari grabbed Jack's hand. They ran, into the smoke down the hill across the burning wreck. Behind them, the screams began and Jack didn't stop running. Trouble arrives. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the sky was bleeding gray when Jack and Solari reached the edge of the forest. Their boots were soaked in mud, their clothes torn from branches. The beacon was gone, swallowed by the swarm. But they had survived. Barely. Behind them, in the deep ravine, the Kylan hive still hissed. And the black-suited men were silent now. Maybe dead, maybe not. Jack didn't look back. His lungs burned, and his arm ached from the run. But the worst pain wasn't in his body. It was in his chest, because ahead at the edge of his farm, lights were moving. Vehicles. 3 colony security transports. He was too late. Jack stopped, breathing hard, and pulled Solari down behind a fallen tree. "They found the barn," he whispered. Solari's face tightened. "My children." Jack raised his binoculars. One of the armored trucks had parked near the barn's main gate. Soldiers in gray exosuits moved like metal statues, slow, careful, armed. He counted at least 6. A 7th stood by the barn door talking into a comm. Then Jack saw movement inside. 2 medics, human, walking out with a stretcher. On it lay Kira, wrapped in a silver blanket. She wasn't crying, just staring at the sky as if the stars had betrayed her. Jen and Doro followed, their hands held by a soldier. Jack clenched his jaw. They took them. What will they do? Silari asked, her voice shaking. Jack's hands curled into fists. Standard protocol. Any unregistered alien life forms are sent to central quarantine, kids or not. Will they hurt them? They'll be tested, scanned, maybe separated. Depends on who's in charge. Silari trembled. I have to go to them? No, Jack said sharply. You go now, they'll shoot. She stared at him. They are my blood. I cannot let them go alone. Jack looked around. The security patrol wasn't just responding to a theft anymore. They were investigating a deeper threat, a crashed ship, stolen data, missing soldiers, and now an armed farmer who'd helped a fugitive. If he showed up now, guns blazing, everyone would die. Jack's mind raced. They don't know you're alive, he said. Not yet. Silari looked confused. You need to stay hidden. Just for a few hours. She opened her mouth to protest, but Jack raised a hand. Listen to me, I'll go. Alone. Talk to someone inside. I might know one of the officers. If we play this right, I can delay their transfer, get you close. You would do that? She asked. Jack nodded slowly. You saved your children. Now let me save them again. 20 minutes later, Jack walked toward the barn with hands raised. His rifle was strapped on his back but unloaded. He wore his old colony veteran badge on his chest. It still had weight. Barely. 2 soldiers pointed rifles at him as he approached. Halt. Identify yourself, one barked. Jack Thomas, ex-colony infantry zone 7. The second soldier checked his scanner. You're the landowner here. I am. The barn door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, sharp jaw, gray buzz cut. His name was Captain Ryder Kane, and Jack hadn't seen him in years. But he remembered the face. Jack stepped closer. You always show up with this much firepower for one thief? Ryder's eyes narrowed. Jack, I heard you were off the grid. Not off. Just quiet. Ryder didn't smile. We got a tip. Something alien. Kids, undocumented. Sick, strange tech. We had to investigate. And? They're stable, Ryder said. But Central Command wants them moved to orbital quarantine. Tonight. Jack's stomach dropped. You're serious? They're just kids. Alien kids, Ryder said coldly. And they came from a ship crash we didn't even detect. That raises red flags. They've done nothing wrong, Jack said. Doesn't matter. Command will decide. Jack took a step closer. Let me speak to them, just once. Ryder looked at him for a long moment. Why? Because I've been helping them. Because I know the mother. Because you and I fought for the same idea once. Mercy. Ryder's face didn't change, but his eyes softened. Slightly. You have 5 minutes. No tricks. Jack nodded. Inside the holding tent, the kids sat on separate cots. Shen ran to Jack as soon as he entered. Where's Mama? Jack knelt. She's safe. Close. I'm going to bring her to you soon. Kira looked weak, but managed a small nod. I knew you would come back. Jack touched her shoulder gently. You're strong, kid. You're stronger than most soldiers I've met. He turned to Doro. Keep them safe. No matter what. Doro nodded bravely. As Jack left the tent, his mind raced. Silari was still hiding. The kids were surrounded, and he had maybe one chance left. As he stepped out into the cold morning air, he saw a drone above them, small, quiet, scanning the area, and, from behind him, Ryder said one last thing. You've got good instincts, Jack, but if you try anything stupid. He looked Jack straight in the eye. You won't survive it. Jack didn't blink. Then I better make it count. Humanity tested. The wind howled across the open field as Jack stood near the security trucks, watching the sky grow brighter. His heart wasn't beating fast anymore. It was slow, heavy, like a countdown. In less than an hour, the transport shuttle would arrive. The children would be taken off-world, locked in sterile rooms, maybe separated, maybe dissected, and Silari would be left behind. Again. He had 5 minutes to make a decision that could brand him as a criminal, or something worse. Back in the forest, Solari waited. Hidden in a narrow ditch under a pile of brush, she clutched a small communicator Jack had given her. It only had one button, one signal. When it blinked green, she would move. When red, she would run. Right now, it blinked yellow. Wait. She gritted her teeth and closed her eyes. Her body trembled, not from cold, but from something deeper. Fear, not for herself. For her children. She had spent 12 days hiding, stealing, crawling through shadows. She had buried her husband in the wreckage and promised her children they would live. And now? Now her hope rested in a human farmer who had every reason to walk away. And yet she trusted him, because when the others had turned guns toward her, he had turned his hand to help. Inside the mobile lab tent, Kira coughed again. A technician adjusted a scanner. The virus strain is mutating, not dangerous to humans, but we've never seen this before. Ryder stood beside him, arms folded. Get samples. The research team on orbit will want full scans. Zhen sat in a corner, his arms around his knees. He said nothing. Dora watched everything, eyes sharp, lips tight, like he was waiting for something. He was. Jack walked into the command tent. Ryder was going over reports but looked up the moment Jack entered. You've had your 5 minutes, he said. I need more than that, Jack said calmly. Ryder didn't answer. Jack stepped forward. Those kids have a virus that could be the key to curing other strains. Your own team said it's harmless to us. Let them stay. Give them medical aid. Asylum. Not my call, Ryder said. Make it your call, Jack snapped. Your field lead. Not for something like this, Jack's voice dropped low. They'll rip those kids apart in orbit, and you know it. Ryder looked away. Jack leaned in. Do you remember Thalos Ridge? Ryder blinked. Don't bring that up. Why not? Jack pressed. We had 20 wounded. The medevac refused to land because of protocol. We stayed. We fought. We bled. You disobeyed orders to save lives. Ryder's jaw clenched. What changed, Ryder? Jack asked. When did we become the people who follow orders instead of doing what's right? The tent fell silent. Outside, the sound of an approaching shuttle filled the air. A deep hum, growing louder. Time was running out. Give me 24 hours, Jack said. I'll find proof they're not a threat. I'll take responsibility. If anything goes wrong, you can throw me into a black cell for the rest of my life. Ryder didn't speak. Then finally he sighed. One day, that's it. Jack nodded once. I won't waste it. 10 minutes later, Jack slipped out through the side fence of the camp and into the woods. He clicked the signal once. The communicator in Solari's hand blinked green. Move. She rose from the ditch, mud still clinging to her skin, and followed. The path they had planned, twisting through shadows, crawling under sensor nets, moving like a ghost. In less than 10 minutes, she was inside the barn again, safe for now. Jack arrived shortly after. He handed her a data pad with the children's scans. This virus, it's rare, he said. But it has something new in it. Something your biology has adapted to. The lab guys don't even realize it yet. But if we show them the full genome comparison, they'll see the potential, not just danger, a cure. Solari took the pad slowly. You risked your life for this. I didn't do it for data, Jack said. I did it because we don't get many chances to prove we're better than our past. He sat down beside her, watching the sun begin to rise. Tomorrow, they'll ask me to hand you over unless we have a reason, something they can't ignore. And if they don't listen, Jack looked at her, then we run. Hours passed. In a hidden corner of the barn, Jack wired together an amplifier using parts from the broken beacon and his old radio equipment. What are you doing? Solari asked. Boosting the signal your husband sent before he vanished, Jack said. Maybe he's alive. Maybe he's looking. Maybe he needs to know you're still here. Solari's eyes filled with tears. You really believe we'll survive this? She asked softly. Jack looked up from the wires, his hand still, Working? No, he said. But I believe we'll fight for it. Hope or doom, the sun was rising slow over the ridge, washing the fields in pale gold. Inside the barn, the old radio equipment crackled with static. Then, one word came through. Solari? Jack froze mid-step. The voice was faint, weak, but real. Solari's eyes filled with tears. She dropped the datapad and rushed to the signal console. Ren, is that you? Solari. Thank the stars. I got the signal. I'm coming. Jack leaned over the controls. Identify yourself. This is Ren of Viruna Medical Corps. I'm in a broken life pod near Titan's Ring. I've been hiding, chased, wounded. Your wife and kids are alive, Jack said. But not safe. Not yet. Ren's voice grew stronger. I can transmit. Our species data. Confirm peaceful status. Bioclearance. We can prove we're no threat. We're running out of time, Jack said. I've got 12 hours before Central pulls the kids off-world. I'll send the data packet now, Ren said. Just hold them, Jack, please. Solari covered her mouth. Tears fell freely now, but not from pain. This time from hope. Jack stood and moved toward the back wall where he had hidden his old comm relay, a military-grade booster. He patched in Ren's signal and fed it straight into the colonies. Security feed. Let them hear it. All of it. This is your proof, Ryder, Jack muttered. Now show me what kind of man you are. An hour later, Jack stood at the front of his farm as 3 armored transports approached once again. This time, he didn't hide. He stood in the center of the dirt road, rifle slung on his shoulder, not to fight, but to face. Ryder stepped out first, a datapad in his hand, his expression unreadable. Behind him, soldiers shifted, weapons ready, but no one raised them. Jack's heart thudded in slow beats. This was the moment. You sent a transmission, Ryder said. I sent the truth, Jack replied. The message was verified. Medical logs, peaceful credentials. The man is a licensed rescue pilot, not a spy. Ryder paused. But Command still wants the children. Then Command can go to hell, Jack said. The silence that followed was heavy. Jack didn't flinch. These kids were dying in a hole, no water, no help. Their mother risked everything. And what did we do? Sent drones and guns. Ryder looked at the ground. We follow protocol. We follow humanity, Jack snapped. Or we become the monsters they're scared of. The wind blew across the field. Birds circled above. Finally, Ryder raised his eyes. I won't send them off-world. Jack blinked. What? Ryder took a deep breath. You're right. We disobeyed orders once before. Saved 20 men. He turned to his troops. Stand down. The soldiers lowered their rifles. Jack exhaled, slow. His knees felt weak, but he held firm. Solari stepped out of the barn, slowly, cautiously. Behind her came Kira, Jen, and Doro, pale but alive, stronger. Ryder looked at them for a long moment. Then, he saluted. Welcome to Earth, he said quietly. 3 days later, a small ship landed just outside Jack's field. Ren stepped out, limping slightly, but alive. The moment he saw Solari, he dropped everything and ran. They embraced. The children rushed him, crying. Jack turned away to give them privacy, but a soft hand touched his shoulder. Thank you, Solari said. You didn't have to help, but you did. Jack gave a tired smile. You helped first. You were a mother, not a thief. I just saw that. She paused. Will you be in trouble? Jack shrugged. Probably. I'm used to that. We owe you everything. You owe me nothing, Jack said. Just stay safe. And if you ever have to steal again, steal from someone else. She laughed, a sound like wind through crystals. Months passed. The story spread across the colony. Human farmer defies orders to protect alien children. Some called Jack a hero, others a fool. He didn't care. He went back to his crops, his silence, his peace. But now sometimes, at night, when he looked at the stars, a soft signal would blink on his radio, just once, "Thank you." And Jack would smile to himself. Because sometimes being human wasn't about following rules. It was about breaking them for the right reason.